Hello, my channel mammals and everybody in the whole world. This is a very important video we're doing today. And you may not realize it until maybe a few years later, but we'll see. Well, the reason I'm sitting on a bed is because we tried sitting in a chair and the light was so terrible that I looked like a ghost with two big blue eyes. So I had to rearrange where I was sitting. Okay, so I'm going to read something to you that I found yesterday in a box. Okay. Look at this drawing of an elephant. See that? Isn't that a good drawing of an elephant? And look, the elephant actually opens up and turns into a letter with beautiful penmanship. This letter was written when we lived in Stoke Gabriel on the River Dart down in Devonshire County, England. And our daughter, Heather, was, I'm just going to show this to you the whole time. Our daughter was 7 years old. And I didn't even know about this until yesterday. She evidently drew this elephant and cut the elephant out, folded the paper, the card, you see, and made this all by herself. And she wrote to Auntie Catherine, a very elegant elderly lady who lived in Boston that was like an aunt to all of us. And so on her own, she must have decided to write her a letter. Now, this letter was never sent, I guess, because it was in a box of things that came out of Heather's cupboard. So Auntie Catherine, I'm afraid, never saw it. But when Richard and I read it, we both almost cried because it was so precious and so amazing to think of a child, 7 years old, doing all this on their own. And I wanted to share it because it shows the infinite possibilities and the infinite agelessness of all of us. And it's just, we're surprised by it because we believe all these states and stages and evolution in growing up and growing old, and it's not like that. I found it over and over again. So here's the letter. Dear Auntie Catherine, this elephant is having a fun Easter holiday, and I hope you are too. I have been making progress in ballet and am learning my French quickly. Spring is here and all the flowers are popping up. A few days ago we had we found some ice on the mill pond, which was surprising. Today has been quite nice. I have joined the sailing club and my first lesson is to be held next week. I hope the weather is nice for the classes. I've been taking piano lessons. I practice at Mr. Baker's house and at the school. I could play a tune for you when we visit. I'm going with the Brownies on Wednesday, and everybody is excited about it. I hope you have a nice Easter. Love, from Heather. Well, Mr. Baker was Heather's best friend, and guess what? He was the owner of the sweet shop. Isn't that perfect? I think I would choose him also. And then he would take her for walks every day after school. And one day, when it was early spring, around this time, all the little wild strawberries were blooming everywhere. And he filled his pockets with confectioner's sugar of this old jacket he always wore that was made of tweed wool and kind of sagging from the rain and everything. And he would just pour the confectioner's sugar into the pockets, no liners, no plastic bags. And he and Heather would tromp through the little glades around the trees and pick these little strawberries. And Heather would run over to his jacket and pull the pocket down and stick her strawberry in there and then eat her wonderful wild strawberries. So that was Mr. Baker, and he had a piano. And and at the school, the little schoolhouse in Stoke Gabriel was right in the middle of the village. And anyone could just walk in there day or night, anytime. So Heather would go there and practice her piano there. And I was thinking, gosh, she was telling Auntie Catherine, and Auntie Catherine would love to, hear all of what Heather's doing. So it seemed like such a perfectly planned letter, It told her about her French and her ballet and her music and their sailing club and everything. And what was interesting, too, is it was a village that the children were peasant children for the most part. But the aristocracy were the retired generals and whatever they call those high places from the war. And they were rugged men, They never retire, those people. They're just always thinking about the future and the generations and the children. And this man who was giving them sailing classes, also every Sunday morning before Sunday school, all the children would pile in to his car, and he would take them down to the sea in the winter and in the any time of year, every Sunday. And they'd all change into their bathing costumes and run straight into the waves and freezing cold, and they didn't even notice because he taught them, how to brave the waves and the weather and the cold so that they could, do fine if they needed to ever. And then Heather would always go to Sunday school with her little plaits dripping on her dress. But it was so worthwhile. It was such a wonderful life. And I thought, every child, no matter where they come from, she was living in a very simple little life there. And one time she had a birthday party when she became 8. And she invited all her friends, all the children, and Mr. Baker. And she didn't want any gifts, except that each one would make their own birthday bonnet. And we have a photo, I wish I had it with me, of all the children with these funny hats that they had made. And Mr. Baker, one little boy made a lighthouse on the top of his hat. And some little girl had flowers just flowing everywhere and ribbons, and they were all so individual. It was adorable. And at the birthday, they all brought scraps from their own birthday bonnets, and they made one for Heather. So Heather also had one. But that's what it was like. And that's real life for a child, I think. It's just a wonderful thing. And I've been thinking about our children, and none of these children would ever have seen a computer or anything like that. And they had such a wonderful experience. And each one, I'm sure, was different in the village. But I just thought it would be great to share it with you, because I think it gives us courage in this time when the world is tugging at their coat, tails, trying to pull them down into the worldly thought, trying to take away the moral, the courage, the ethics, the, the, the manners, all the things that they should and could and would love to learn as children. And Heather is still that way today. In fact, I was just telling my friend who's holding the camera here, Veronica, that when she became a professional dancer, ballet, classical, and she performed all over Europe and so forth. And one day she decided to leave that. And I asked her why, and she said, well, it's all very glamorous and it's very flattering to be a dancer, and everybody loves it. But she said, I just feel it was more for me than it was for the world. And I really wanted to do something more. So she left ballet and she started a company in Burkina Faso, all by herself with her wonderful husband, Nils. But she was the principal of the company. And they employ so many people and have taught them all these wonderful skills and ideas and inventions. They're making these complicated looms. They've learned to grow the cotton, weave the cotton, comb the cotton, spin the cotton, all backwards, I'm telling you. And then actually stitch and learn to sew these beautiful clothes. And because of so many of them so happily engaged in this work, the militia that has been attacking the other countries round about daren't ever come to their city, because it's not really like a city, it's dirt roads and chickens. but they're all gainfully employed, and it makes such a difference, and nobody ever comes near them. Nobody harms their children, nobody. And I really think that is Heather saving the world, you know. And I just want to show you one little thing before you leave our cabin here. This is a painting that Heather did in Stoke Gabriel when she was probably around the same age that she wrote her letter to Auntie Catherine. And she would sit at the dining table. It was like one big room. It was as big as the fireplace. The fireplace was as big as the room. And this is all stone, you know, and a little stone seat that we had a rug over. And this is her bear, Theodore, and we made his clothes when she was very tiny. She always had Theodore. And I forgot who this is. It's a mouse, but I forgot her name. And this is another little animal I don't remember. I have to ask Heather. Anyway, and this is one of the pots, and another pot that Richard had made. And we had flowers in it, and she painted those flowers. And then a little later on, in a couple of days later, a few days later, it took her about a week to paint this. I saw all of a sudden this little brown spot on the windowsill there. And I said, Heather, what is that? And she said, well, Theodore was hungry, so I made a cookie for him. And then I found out later that it was a drip. And she tried to make it look like a cookie. Isn't that great? So, well, thank you for coming. And it's not really about Heather or our family. It's about where we are going as a nation now. We're going back to our roots of the American dream. Know-how, learning how, having skills, aware of what's around us, feeling nature, and feeling our own hearts, only giving, never taking. And that's what this is about. And we all have this yearning, but we forget that children are already grown up. They come complete. They come to us with all the intelligence, all the wonder, and the ability that they need at the moment as they go and grow. in body, the spirit is already way ahead. Okay, my channel mammals, have a wonderful day, and let's all go for it together with our children. Thanks.